Hello, this is Daworso and welcome to my channel. Today, this will be my third movie, and today we will talk about the characteristics of professional poker player. So far I have written about 12 characteristics. Of course, some of them may be expanded. There definitely could be more of them, but I think those 12 characteristics are the most important for professional poker players. So the first characteristic would be honesty, and by honesty I mean you have to be honest with yourself. And in poker you just cannot cheat yourself. You cannot say that you are winning player while in reality it's different. This kind of dishonesty would be against being professional player, and would seem more that we are gamblers and we play poker for fun, for entertainment, and most definitely, or maybe almost most definitely, we are losing players. Professional poker player must be able to say to himself that he did something wrong and be aware of that, and so he can improve and change this the wrong behavior that he make. He cannot he cannot claim that he is winning player based on, I don't know, few hundred tournaments, or maybe a few thousand cash game hands, because this is not enough. This is simply not enough. And especially when somewhere in the back of our head we know that we were lucky, that we won like one tournament being really lucky and something like that. Taking decision of becoming a pro player must be really honest, and it must be based on really large sample of hands or tournaments. And also we need to be sure that our strategy works in the really long term. The fact that we are winning players could be said after really large sample, maybe half a million cash game hands, or maybe 5 or 10,000 tournaments. So, and we also need to make sure that our winnings are in accordance with the EV graph. There are, for example, players that, based on the very small sample, that have win rate, let's say 5 big blinds per 100, but it happened only like during 1 week, and they cannot accept that it was just one lucky week, and normally the game is a losing game. The next two characteristics we can put actually together. One of them is patience and the other is persistence. And what I'm trying to say is that poker is the game, that kind of game, that in one hand you can do everything perfectly and still lose the hand with someone who played really terrible. But we need to accept this fact, and we also need to accept that this is game based on mathematics and probabilities, and in the long term the one who is taking correct decisions will be the one who will be the winning player. But there is also one condition: you need to keep doing your job, and it doesn't matter what your short-term results are. This is one of the hardest things for professional players to do. The ability to use the correct strategy in the same way. Doesn't matter if you at the same time at the current time during downswing or the upswing, and you cannot really look into unlucky hands or bad times of playing poker. But also the same, if for some reason you just played really bad but we were lucky and we won the hand, we cannot just try to cheat ourselves um, that we did the right thing, or we just had to win, and we just simply need to avoid the same place in the future. The next fourth characteristic would be good organization. If we have the characteristics that I described above, and we know that we can win in the long run, the most important thing to make our winnings optimized would be good work organization. We need to know what's good for us, how many tables we need to play, which tournaments we need to choose, which cash games, which stakes, how we manage our bankroll on, and how much time we just can spend playing, expecting good results. If, for example, after 2 hours of play we feel tired and we don't play our best game, we should just take decision that our session cannot be longer than 2 hours. Maybe 2 or 3 sessions like this every day would be perfect for us. If we play tournaments, then we need to know which tournaments we play in advance, and we should then think to ourselves how long it can take, so our session is not too long. When we play sit and go tournaments, we just need to decide, for example, to register to 20 tournaments and then take a break, and then we can repeat that 2 or 3 times a day. We also need to take care of that during the game, that nothing distracts us. We need to mute the phone, don't write on chat, don't write any chat messages, don't look on the Facebook during the game. And I'm sure that we will be back talking about good organization during our next few movies. Next characteristic would be basic math skills, and actually mathematics used during the poker game is less advanced than you would think, but the easier it is for you to make basics math during the game, it's the best for you. In the beginning it looks like really complicated. For example, our opponent bets some amount, the pot is some amount, and we need these and those cards to make our straight or make our flush. So this means that our call will be good for us or not. But after some time, some calculations will become intuitive for us, and straight away we will know if our play makes sense or not, and we will not really have to calculate anything on the side. The math-based skills are also used in organization of work, when we decide how many tables we can play at the same time based on our win rate, VPP points made, hands we can play during an hour, and things like that. In addition to basic math skills, we should also be able to understand some basic psychology, which could be useful together if it comes to us or as well our opponents. In case of us, we talk about controlling emotions, and we need to know ourselves as much to understand that to be aware of a decision that we make, when we should play and where we shouldn't. We don't really have to call it psychological knowledge, but we should be aware when is the time to relax, when is the time to work hard. Also, there should be like some similar aspects that we already talked about. The honesty, it's also should be included in the basic psychological knowledge. When it comes to our opponents, we need to understand how specific players react to some situations that can happen at the table. If, for example, one of the weaker players would lose the big hand, then it's very we can assume that he will be playing badly for the next few hands, because his decision will be based on emotions. But when the same thing happens to a really good regular player, we cannot assume that he will do something strange for the next time. Next characteristic, number 7, will be humbleness, and I think that we need to know that poker is a very complex game, and currently the level of play of many of the players would be pretty high, so we cannot cheat ourselves about our skills and say that in general we are like one of the best poker players, but only because we're really unlucky. That's why we're still playing on No Limit 25. Some of the players, they reject the option to keep working on their skills and keep develop themselves because they think they don't really need to learn anything else. But in poker, the trends and the strategies, they change every few months. And even if you had the best year in our career and some of good results, we really still need to work on our game. Being humble, it also reflects in observation and reacting to our results. Because during our career we'll be have like really great days, really great weeks, but we need to understand that one week when we have 20 BBs per 100 hands doesn't mean that this is our real win rate. This would be if we take all of our results from really long term, and then we see how the real win rate looks like. So that means we cannot be really too happy with ourselves after few good days. When we talk about humbleness, we also need to mention big ego, which we just simple cannot have at the tables. Um, it happens many times with poker, especially with poker players. Some of them just play the game because they want to show other players who's the boss, and they have the tendency to go into some unnecessary fights with other players, and they need to prove to them who's better player. Um, this means that players like this, they don't take optimal decisions in terms of their strategy. They just try to force their plays to outplay their opponent, and some of the players would actually sacrifice their winnings just to be really hard to play against, because in poker community, especially amongst the players that don't really play too much but they just watch everything and comment on everything, they think it's more important to play so-called sexy poker than to have good poker results. And sexy poker would be playing very unconventional and very brave, and this play should be really to show off to some other people, and doesn't really care if it's effective or not. It's very easy to think like this and then stop playing correctly just to think that, okay, I need to play like this because this would some players expect me to do, and this would be really nice if I play like this. So if poker is expected to be our work, we need to put our ego aside and just focus on making money and not try to prove to some other players how like world champions we are. Next characteristic would be capability of data analysis, and what I mean by that is when you're professional poker player, you need to just accumulate a lot of data. Professional poker players, they use HUD from programs like Hold'em Manager or Poker Tracker, and this HUD sometimes very big. They show them many statistics of our opponents and how they play, and based on that we take out decisions. But HUD like this must be useful and just cannot look nice or look too complicated, and we need to know how to react when we see specific plays of our opponents, and based on this specific statistics. Data analysis is also useful with the programs like Hold'em Manager itself, when you practically have like so many possible options to analyze your games on every possible angles that you probably cannot use all of them, but you must be able to know which statistics are more important for you, and on which one you can work on and improve. Actually the amount of won or lost dollars is not the most important. We just need to understand which plays and why they bring us profit in the long term. So we need to um, learn how to classify them, filter them, and how we can use specific data for ourselves. And of course, we will be back with this data analysis when we look into the Hold'em manager. Next one would be capability of acquisition of knowledge, because as I said earlier, the poker strategy changes non-stop, and what comes with it, poker players need to learn new strategies like every few months. Sometimes people have the tendency to just listen, but they don't really hear what they need to hear, and in poker we just cannot rely on that. We cannot cheat when we try to study, and we need to really understand what we want to learn. We can watch some instructional videos of even of some like best player in the world, but we need to understand the ideas which is behind some specific plays, and just not to try to blindly repeat them. So if someone have a problem with acquisition of knowledge, at first he can just take notes when he watch the instructional movie, but he should note why and what to do, and not just okay, so I need to call from big blind having 9-8 suited. And if we'll be able to understand the specific plays in specific circumstances, then we'll be able to develop the strategy ourselves and understand why it brings us profit. Characteristic number 11 is being perceptive, and as you can probably notice, some of the professional poker players, they play on more than one table, and it happens because they have the play on one table. In they already know how to play perfect on one table, and they know what things they need to look for. Because of that, they can just add another tables, and they don't lose of the quality of the game. And some of the beginner players, they just focus too much on some details that they're not really important. For example, they fold 7 deuce from under the gun, and they look if they would hit something on the flop or on the turn on the river, and they get really upset if they would actually hit like 2 pair, but the professional poker players would tell you that it doesn't really matter. The same happens when you get excited with how other players play, and we don't really need to look for that, because we have those programs like Hold'em Manager who will take care of all of the plays, all of the stats that how other players play. And professional poker players, they focus their attention on some other aspects. If our opponent raises from specific position and we have some cards that we want to play, our vision should instantly go to specific hard statistics that relate to the situation like this, and relates to our strategy. So what should we do in this specific situation? So we are interested in specific reaction to specific play, and nothing else should even distract us. Being perceptive, and so we can just focus on the things that really important for us. You can just work on that during everyday things that happens around us. For example, how many times you can see, like in the shop or in the mall or in the bus, like people who just don't know what happens around them, and just make sure you're not one of them. And the last characteristics I would put there would be imagination, and this relates a little bit to the last sentences I've said about being perceptive, um, you need to be able to imagine about many things in every possible aspect. It doesn't relate only to poker, but in general to life. So imagination would be able to observe and react to the things that happen around us, even before, sometimes even before they happen. This is the thinking about a few steps ahead, foreseeing the circumstances and what does it mean for us. For example, when you drive a car and you get close to the traffic lights, you can see if the green light for the pedestrian is already blinking, so you can know that that means the light for you will change soon as well, so you maybe can consider start braking already. So these things in poker, and connected with some other things and other characteristics that I already was talking about, I think it would make you a better player and better understand some very small things that happen in poker. Sometimes when you, for example, on the bubble in the tournament, or maybe play last hand before the break, or maybe just able to use the physical tells of players that play the same tournament like you. I think this for now would be all the characteristic I wanted to talk about. I just want to also show you like my long-term graph, which as you can see over 6.5 million hands, the tendency is just go to up almost all the time. So you need to understand that I'm not like the most talented guy in the world. I just follow some basics. I have some characteristic of poker players, and this should be enough to keep being the winning player in the long term. And I hope the same can happen with you if you just understand some specifics of poker and follow some simple rules. That will be talking more in the next movies. So this would be all for now. I hope you enjoyed this movie and look forward for the next one. And as always, you can comment, you can send me other comments at my Gmail address at the Warsaw Poker, and see you next time.